But I met Justen through Tom Ferry coaching originally. So when we started, Tom Ferry coaching was one of the first coaching programs we jumped into. I saw a lot of people at the time. I'd heard of Tom Ferry, but I didn't really know anything about much of what he did or how he coached. And so I thought, I'm going to go to a conference. And I went to a summit, and I said, okay, seems like he's pretty legit. But then I saw a lot of people, a lot of agents that I was already starting to look up to, and I noticed they were sitting in the coaching section, right? So that means they'd bought coaching. I thought, okay, well, if those are all getting coached, then, must be legit, right? What did Ryan say? Let me check it out. I saw peers, or you go online, you start to vet things. And so we got into coaching. We got into teams coaching, which cost $4,000 a month, right? Yeah. And, at that time, we were going all gangbusters. We grew our team. Kind of going back to some of the questions earlier, when you have leads coming in, we recruited the fastest by just holding a local event. And at the end of it, I said, by the way, we're growing our team. If anybody's interested, we recruited 5 agents just from that event, because they came up and they're like, oh yeah. So once you have the lead flow coming in, it's so much easier to hire the positions, the agents, the COO, whatever that is, get a really good mortgage partner. But we got placed with the first Tom Ferry coach. He's like, hey, tell me about your business, what you're doing. And we're like, all right, we're on YouTube. We're generating all these deals. And he goes, yeah, I'm not qualified to coach you guys. I was like, oh, okay. Well, first of all, thank you for your honesty. And he's like, you're doing about twice my production. And he goes, you got this YouTube thing. I don't know anything about YouTube. And it's just, I don't think I'm the right guy for you. I was like, yeah, okay, cool. Hey, appreciate the honesty. So we got kind of put back in the queue, I guess you could say. Then all of a sudden, maybe like a week later, I get a phone call from this guy named Justen, and he's just talking on the phone. And, I remember our phone conversation. I was outside. I think I might have been filming that day, but I took the call and ended up walking around the neighborhood for an hour and a half we spent on the phone. And I could just tell. I could tell by the questions he was asking. I could tell by the tone in his voice that this guy, he's legit. And I knew what he was talking about. I knew he's been there, done that. And I said, and then we're like, okay, we'll move forward. But I think on that phone call too, what really got me is I said, because he's exited a couple of companies, exited a 80-person real estate team, had a mortgage company, exited. So I'm connecting the dots, and I'm like, I think this guy's pretty good financially. I think he's okay. Like, why are you coaching for another coach? It didn't add up, right? I was like, something didn't add up there. Everything else sounds legit, but I was like, what? Why are you coaching? Why do you have a job now if you exited and I know you've got some cash? And he said, my wife had breast cancer, started battling that and, completely changed our lives. And he said, so for me, I love working with entrepreneurs, business owners, and, it's important for me to still work. He goes, but at the same time, I didn't want to run a business. I didn't want to run a team. I didn't want all the responsibility of the entrepreneur. He goes, but that's me at heart. And he goes, but I love helping other people. And he goes, so, I sought this opportunity because I actually do get flexibility, but it's really kind of based on the clients, and I can acquire clients as I want to, but I don't have all the overhead or the expense, or I'm trying to run a business, right? It's being run by another company. So he said, for me, it's just a way to kind of stay plugged into the community. He goes, and I'm not coaching a lot of people, just a few key people that I want to work with. And, I thought that just really said a lot. And so, after our contract was up with, that, we negotiated our own deal. Right? So we said, look, we got to keep working with this guy. And not just a business coach, but he's been a life coach too, as well. And very wise beyond his years. And he's younger than me. Like, why am I getting coached by all these kids, man? My goodness, all these smart kids. But that, what? They grew up with the internet. I still didn't. There wasn't cell phones when I grew up, right? In high school, yeah, we didn't have that stuff. So I don't know. He's not. He's not that much younger, but he is a little bit younger. He's handsome, he's buff, he's tatted. I mean, he really fits in with our culture, I'll tell you that. Travis, as soon as Travis saw him, he's like, oh yeah, I like this dude. He didn't even know anything about him. He's like, I like this guy. But super cool. He knows, I mean, so smart and really level-headed. I mean, just one of the best people that I know. And I wanted to introduce him to y'all, and that's Justen Martin. Hey, you should check out my new community for free. It's where I host all of my more in-depth trainings, and you're going to get access to step-by-step courses showing you how to get buyer and seller leads for your business using passive prospecting, a supportive community of over 1,300 members, and weekly group coaching sessions you can attend and ask questions. Now, this community is all about passive prospecting and getting quality buyer and seller leads through YouTube without spending a penny on ads or cold calling. Now, the link is in the description below, so make sure you join for free today and say hi to me when you get in the community. I look forward to seeing you there.
Yeah, it's a great shirt. Let me just, all right, we got that working. Well, yeah, by raise of hands, how special was last night and just today the private conversations all of us are able to have? Yeah. You know, when I got to stand in that room last night, thank you for taking command, and listen to everybody share where they're from, why they're here, but really just the group they're part of. And the word accelerator means something. It's supposed to accelerate something. The question, though, is what is that something? Is it just accelerating the amount of subscribers I have? Is it accelerating the amount of closings I achieve? For most people, when you look at branding or just your vision, it's accelerating everything that is important in your life, which we understand professionally that is, but there are so many others. So for any of you who don't know who I am, yes, I'm their business coach. I started with Tom Ferry after my wife went through breast cancer, and the reason being was that was a moment that shocked us. You see, for a decade, I studied things like meditation and 6-disc sets, all these things around mindset, and I really believed that, I had a good grasp on life and reality. But when certain things impact your life in a way that you'll never understand, it changes everything, yes? Yes. And to each and every one of you who are going through something today, who most inevitably will be going through something tomorrow, or you've had to battle something in the past, this is these choices that lead you to saying, well, then what is it that I want to create? What is the life that I want to live? And when you look at passive prospecting, there's some things we know. And, my vision today is really to update what you already know. I'm not going to probably talk about something so new, but I want to add an update to it. Just like our systems, our software, we're on version 4.0 now, right? In the YouTube course, okay? They need updates. And the reason why is the problem with believing you understand means that you don't believe the world around you is changing. You see, the second you understand something, what happens is the world around you changes, and you now most likely don't understand what you are as you're proudful. It means you disregard everything else that's going around you, and you get stuck in certain states of consciousness like I'm too proud to do this, like our conversation last night. Yep. Years of saying, hey, you know what, I'm not going to do video. Years of saying I'm going to make phone calls, and I don't believe I can do this or I can achieve that. And a lot of us, we look back on that and we just go, gosh, I sure wish I wasn't so proud. I disregarded all these things other people are doing, and in return, why? Because I thought that I truly understood it, and then we have these aha moments at these conferences with people that care about you that are very impactful. And so last night was extremely impactful for me, and I looked back, Levi, on one of your lyrics, and it said, nice to know my kind will be on my side.
Nice. Yes.
And so I'm not just a business coach. I was there 2 years ago at Build. Except I was in the back corner of 5,000 people, and I did have a moment of pride. I was very proud, not to be a coach, but to be somewhere with somebody who was pursuing a vision that they had written down for me on paper. Here's what we're going to do in 1 year. Here's what we're going to do in 3 years. In fact, Levi has a 20-year vision that I have in my binder. Just where my life's going to be, what it's going to look like, and who I am. And the reason why I share this with you is because to me, coaching is not just the knowledge or wisdoms other people have imparted on you that you're going to share with others. It's being side by side with somebody.
Hey, real quick, if you're thinking about changing brokerages or you're brand new and you're thinking about choosing a brokerage, well, Travis and I would love to talk to you about partnering with us at EXP. You'll get access to all of our coaching, training, and courses at no cost, but mainly we want to see if we're a good fit for each other, so just check the description below and you can book a call with myself and Travis, and we look forward to speaking with you.
To help them achieve a vision. And the problem is we have no clue what's going to happen. But on the way or the path of a creator, or what I like to call entrepreneurs, is you're going to create all kinds of things. The definition of entrepreneurship, job creation. So the question is, what job are you creating right now? And for a lot of us with video, we're creating many of them. The success stories I'm hearing from everybody has been beyond rewarding. Thank you for sharing those. And so as we look at just 3 things that I want to cover today, one is to remind to execute basics consistently but at a higher standard. We talked about this as, hey, you know what? A coach is coming up to speak. Well, guess what? I'm not a coach. My name is Justen Martin. I'm a father of 4 children. They're amazing, all right? And sometimes not amazing. I have a lot of my own problems I'm working on, okay? But the nice part is the overall goal of being a coach is taking on this level of trust. Somebody trusting you that you're going to be there for them yesterday, today, and tomorrow, knowing we don't quite know what's going to happen. The question, though, around the separation of the coach and the person that is placing that trust is then the decisions that you make every single day. So one of those is I want to update your perspective on what you already know. Just a perspective, right? I don't want to change how you feel. I just want to put maybe a different vision or an image in front of you so then that way you could go, haven't thought about it that way. Because in that thinking, what happens is you start changing. You don't know it, but the things that sometimes you wanted to rid or the things that you wanted to improve, they actually start changing just right in front of you. The problem is we come to so many conferences wanting change, and we believe at that conference tomorrow, no. What it is it's the subtle but noticeable changes each and every day that all of a sudden, 1 year from now, you look back, and as I hear Travis say, gosh, 3 years ago, I just never imagined I'd be here. You're right. For most of us, we underestimate how much can happen in a longer period of time, but we do what? We overestimate how much we can do in a shorter period of time. So there's 7 techniques that I'm going to leave you with today that literally can change the outcome of your vision. They can change the outcome of who you are as a being. They can change the way you feel. And we'll talk a little bit about those. So let's just confirm that my assumptions are right, what we already know. Give me a yes or a yes. We know it is possible to grow with less effort. Yes? Yeah, that's why we're here creating video. We're listening to Levi's story of being here for 3 weeks, knowing that our business is running. Now, here's what we already know, but we might be questioning. Should I start with structure or systems? Which one do you think? Structure. I always hear that. What's the problem with starting with structure?
You have nothing to structure on. Your system to have some.
Yeah. Your structure falls apart. How fast? Y'all laughing, I'm not laughing, okay? They tend to happen fast because structure is usually the first thing that people teach that you should form, but it's actually the last, okay? You see, when you simplify business, you delegate and elevate out the things you don't like doing, you're not good at. You start having predictability. You then can decide which systems really are working. And then after those 4 things are in place, guess what you've created? Structure. Okay? Now, one of the reasons why I'd recommend not starting with structure is because your systems are out of whack. What systems am I talking about?
Values and goals.
Ooh, I was not thinking that deep, but hell yeah. Okay? Value and goals. What other systems are out of whack? Yeah. Boy, if I could just dive into your database, I'll show you a system that's completely out of whack. Just joking. I know you guys have very segmented, organized databases. All right, what other systems? What's that?
Health systems can be out of whack.
Oh, tell me more. What you mean?
I'm just saying, my husband got sick for a minute, and that was out of whack. The whole system was just crazy.
Yeah, because push comes to shove, if you get the choice, Time or money, which one are you choosing? Depends what's going on, right? But most of the time, when you meet wealthy people and you ask them, what are you trying to pursue now? It's not the wealth, right? They're trying to pursue time with their loved ones, time with their grandkids, time with the people that matter most, time doing the things that matter most to them, and investing in other people, most likely with their time. That's why I got into coaching, okay? Is I didn't know what I wanted to do anymore. My system was a little out of whack. I knew my values, though. They were my family. Okay, I was working with people I wanted to work with, and the trust of being a business owner on when you have a real estate brokerage of 80 agents and you're doing 1,000 transactions combined between mortgage and real estate, it's a lot of responsibility. And I wasn't ready for that because I was still working on myself. So before that, I said, you know what? Where could I just go learn some great practices, some systems, some structure, some processes? Well, then I'm going to go to Tom Ferry. And he is probably one of the most wise, most connected individuals I know in the real estate space. Now, through that, though, it led me into the relationships that I wanted and my vision that ultimately made sense to say, hey, over time, things are probably going to change, yes? Meaning the event that I went through that was very serious, not really for me, though. My wife really went through it. Okay? It was serious for her. So the reality is, though, over time, that changed. Very easily and very fast, her and I stopped having so much of the desire for family time, time for one another, and we started what? Yeah, we started wanting things, desiring things, forgetting about time, right? And going into experiences, which are not wrong. Remember, just so you know today, nothing right or wrong, just sharing a story. And as that progressed, what ended up happening is some of those desires, some of those visions actually came to reality, like many of us say, well, gosh, you know what? I couldn't imagine that that would happen. And so part of that was connections with Levi and Travis. Part of that was connections with other businesses in complete different industries. And then the other part of that was connection with human beings and how bad our systems are neurologically, physiologically, and biologically impacting anxiety, depression, and addiction. Anybody agree? Yeah. Just that constant desire for something, right? The attachment for results and outcomes, that literally is all I can think about. The need for one more, the need for more, whatever that is. It could be substance or non-related. The need for one more hour at work in replace of what? The hour with your daughter, the hour with the people that matter most to you. Because for most of them, they only want an hour, but we want more, right? And then we just start looking at the anxiousness and depression aspect. Well, just no longer feeling those emotions I once upon a time felt, right? Love, joy, bliss. One of the number one issues that I have working with CEOs is their willingness. They tell me, I don't want to deal with them anymore. I don't want to talk to those agents anymore. Sales managers, yes. They don't take my advice. The willingness level, right? Which then, if you really want anybody to receive anything well, we're going into that with very little will. Hard to make videos without some level of wanting to, right? To really project yourself in a way that the people watching it are say, thank you, that was of service, that was of value, I think I should reach out to you. And so over a decade in corporate America, a decade in real estate, and then now this next decade of what I was going to be doing, I realized that, wow, they all are combined together around a couple systems of how we operate as human beings, and then the choices we make every single day on how we want to operate our business. So then I started studying from the Entrepreneurial Operating System. Anybody heard of them? EOS? Okay, cool. Right? Learn a little bit more about EOS, and they have a really simplified approach to all of these things, which is what I want to talk to you about today. So, where there is no vision, the people perish, but she that keepeth the law, happy is she. The goal overall for most of us is to be happy, yes? Yeah. So as we start looking at, well, what if this just starts with updating our understanding of what growth means? So as you look at neurologically, physiologically, psychologically, the growth that each of us can pursue is remarkable. Every one of you, we talked about this, Levi shared, we need to adjust to fit our personality, right? What's the model but then how do I need to adjust it to fit my personality? Every one of you, your personality is most likely based off your connections and perspective on how you view things. The way this magical system up here operates, and every one of you have something called your default mode. Anybody heard of that? Yeah, your brain default mode. It's a network. It's got certain patterns and habits that are very hard to break. Has anybody heard of something up there called the amygdala? Yeah, the amygdala is where you store fear. It's where you store judgment. It's where every aspect of being nervous, of getting in front of a screen, recording a video, worrying about what somebody's going to think. Those that have maybe somebody called pessimistic compared to optimistic, that is basically the activity and blood flow that's going to your amygdala. And right now in America, we have an absurd amount of activity based on the worldly setting and everything around us that we can't escape, guys. Because I'm not going to stand here and say, don't be on social media. I'm not going to stand here as a business coach and say, don't use YouTube. You have to use, or don't have to, but I would recommend you do use these platforms because the updated version of NAR, do you know what the number one thing they're looking for in an agent now? Their social presence. I was at an elite conference with Tom about a month ago, and NAR has their new, here's the top 10 things that people are looking for in agents. The number one thing that they are looking for in an agent is their social presence, which is why we win listings with our YouTube channel. It's why we have all these success stories that you guys talked about. But the problem is, neurologically, it is shaping your patterns of thought, and it's not improving another area neurologically, which is, anybody heard of your prefrontal cortex? Yeah, it's where you regulate mood. It's where you feel these things like love and joy and bliss, or not even go into spiritual paradigms, just reason and integrity paradigms, neutrality, acceptance, forgiveness, all these things neurologically, which unfortunately we don't use these areas very much because there's certain techniques, 7 of them I'm going to talk about today, that actually help you with blood flow and activity to an area of the brain that most of us have lost the ability for that system to work together. So, as you look at psychologically, who here knows why you feel the way you do? Yeah, please. Yeah. Okay, no right or wrong answer. I don't even know the answer. Okay, anybody got an idea psychologically? Cool. Yeah. So for some things in business, you just have to make sense of something. Not necessarily understand it, because once you make sense of it, you now have the ability to move to some form of certainty or trust. But as you look at neurologically, and then as all this happens, physiologically, you have hormones, you have your fight or flight systems, right? This kind of stress, we all think that that email is like a tiger trying to catch us. We've all heard these examples, right? Now all of a sudden, physiologically, it's doing certain things with our body that's most likely then emotionally, we have this psychological labeling or words which makes up our emotions. Yes? Okay? So, as you start looking at emotions of uncertainty, anxiousness, and frustration, how many of you guys have felt that in your business? Okay? To me, growth is getting rid of those words and feeling complete different ones, but the question is, how? That's what I want to share with you. So, as you look at the other side, we've talked a lot about this today, and I had to go make these adjustments to these slides because it was so comparable. There's an acronym called STIR. Okay, STIR is basically the acronym to help people reach non-ordinary states of consciousness. So if your current state of consciousness is anxiousness, I'm really nervous about something, I have to make this decision, right? That is not the state of consciousness that we're trying to choose, right? Has anybody like woke up and be like, I'd love a dose of anxiety today? No, okay? I'll talk about why that is, but at the same time, we know we don't want these things. So the question is, hey, coach, how do I get rid of them? The first one you can look into is an acronym called STIR. It represents selflessness, timelessness, effortlessness, and richness. These are the things that when you look at lower levels of consciousness that usually relate to certain emotions or physiological responses that aren't getting you accelerated, these are the things that you can start working on. So first, selflessness is the content, right? We were talking about, are we making content that is for other people in the value of service or use? Or have I started listening to people who I'm not sure if that of what we are talking about stands the test of time? Or are we just trying to do something new? I always recommend question it by testing it, which is what you hear Levi share. It's like, look, we tested this and well, guess what? Let's get back to being a little bit more selflessness. Now, this is the other aspect, is that one of the challenges to go improve these systems, and we'll talk about this in a moment, is to stop self-grasping. Who here thinks about I a lot? Or my a lot? My channel, my closings, my money, I. The problem is that we're using the least influential word in the world. The most influential word in the world is you. Right, Brian?
Absolutely not.
It's you, Brenda. If I'm trying to be selflessness and I'm trying to connect with people, it's about you. Not me, not my, not I. Now, timelessness, this is the challenge. How many people have thought about like the stuff you have to do after this conference? Okay. How many of you thought about it literally like while you were talking? Yeah. How many of you thought about it while you were listening to somebody? Yeah. The challenge with timelessness is getting into this place of not thinking so much about the future, not thinking so much about the past, but actually living in the present, because that's probably where you're going to make your best content. So as we start looking at your business, as you start looking at your content, as you really look at building whatever brought you from wherever you came all around the world to be at this amazing conference for 2 days, you want to leave with something that's really going to start changing, subtle but noticeably, and over time hearing the same story, but now for you as opposed to somebody else that goes, oh my gosh, in 1 year, here is where I got to. And there's been a ton of principles, a ton of amazing speakers, and my only goal is to be of value or use to leave you, though, with a couple truths that until you implement these things, the systems and the structure will never take place, because there's a lot of things out of whack that we got to fix, starting with you, but then it's very easy to fix within the business. So as you look at effortlessness, how many of you would like to literally get out of bed and just be like, I got some calls today. I'm excited to make them. I got a real asshole agent to deal with. Looking forward to some curiosity to talk to them. You know, going on a 3-week vacation, got to pump out 8 videos. Cool. Let's go get her done. Like, seriously, we're laughing, but like, who wouldn't love a dose of like effortlessness in business? To me, it's always been what I love about any conference anywhere is like very few people talk about effortlessness unless I'm around like spiritual yogis. And I'm like, look, I'm not leaving this paradigm. I still apparently want a Ferrari. There's stupid things I still think about. I'm just a normal person. I'm not a spiritual teacher. I didn't create that quote around vision. I don't understand biblical references. I'm just a normal person. But I would love life to just be a little bit easier in every aspect. Not just real estate, but life. And what's beautiful, though, is when these systems start working, guess what? They both do. You can't really separate one from the other, can you? Not as an entrepreneur. We don't just get to wake up and go to some corporation and everything is just going to keep operating. I get to punch out and go home. Where you go, there you are, and everything that we do. The richness, though, is something so beautiful. Who here has found a way, like if you're missing meaning, has a solution? Like, if I don't have some meaning, here is what I go do. Where do you go seek meaning?
Under a tree.
Yep. Where do you guys find meaning? Maybe you didn't seek it, but like, where do you get your aha moments that give you clarity around meaning?
Cleaning the house.
Cool.
It's cathartic.
I didn't say it was wrong.
Right?
Yeah.
That's somebody's YouTube video.
Cool.
Scripture.
Scripture. Spiritual. Music.
Connecting with friends and loved ones.
Yeah. Okay? So everybody has their own place for meaning. What I've found or referenced is some people share, like when you really need meaning, nature is like the one place that you can find it. Just go, be in nature, whatever nature you like. Levi likes under trees. I like beaches or lakes. You know what I mean? I have my flip-flops on. Can't stop the flop, right? So wherever that is, you go find your meaning. but purpose is usually in serving another. So when you really look at trying to find purpose in your content, purpose in your channel, is the more that you dive into serving people, you'll find out you'll have a lot more purpose in doing your channel than you ever will thinking about I or my. Because who is it very easy to not follow through on their commitments? Ours, right? But when you commit to somebody else, what happens? Accountability, different systems change, states of consciousness around guilt or other things lead you to, you know what I mean, follow through. So again, a lot of these now as we move into business and not too much this philosophical reference, which is not really philosophical because it has to do with everything that's happening within your body, brain, and or overall systems, is you have four things. You have a vision, you have scorecard, you have process and accountability. So if you want the foundation of EOS, Entrepreneurial Operating System, it's a very expensive program to be involved in, but this is really their foundation. And we already know we don't start with systems or structure, we start with vision. So I didn't share with you, but along those couple years of just continuing to pursue a vision of relationships with people is that then I realized what I wanted to do. It didn't matter whether it was real estate, business owners, or anybody. I realized what's preventing everybody from operating at their highest levels, most likely their current state of consciousness. Just they won't get out of their own way. Or we don't know how to improve it other than potentially being prescribed something or changing certain situations. And if any of this becomes sensitive, it's only a brief moment. But we have stories here. I've heard many of yours, from health to concerns to mental afflictions to family members, and it is a major issue. The question, though, is how do you solve it? Or let's not even think about problem solving. What do you want to create? So what I wanted to create was a way to make sure that every person I worked with had the ability to better understand and associate what they're doing to improve their current state to operate within more reason and integrity. Because in business, sometimes are we unreasonable? Yes. Okay? And sometimes do we lack something called like trust? Because otherwise, the effortlessness part would be super easy, right? We would just write some checks for this training. We would go out there and do these things. Why? Because we're operating from this place of complete neutrality, and the predominant emotion would just be trust. You trust your business plan, you trust your vision, you trust your people, but we know there's so much that goes into that that doesn't make it that easy. Simply explained from Coach Justen. But as you look at exploring psychedelics, so I'm in Colorado, we have the legal ability to share psilocybin mushrooms. So I help thousands of people right now, all right, work through exploring how do they heal addiction, depression, and anxiety through the use of non-ordinary states of consciousness, which is a subtle yet noticeable change in their systems. For anybody that doesn't know, psilocybin mushrooms, they reduce the blood flow and activity to your amygdala, which finally allows people to work with their therapist, finally allows people to start journaling, finally allows people to pray, sing, do many things to work on their limbic system, their mood regulation, and everything that will help them start improving overall mood. But in a way, mood is associated to your state of being. Because we all know, right? I can literally be happy right now, and then what can happen in 12 seconds? I go to pissed. So in a way, Kevin's laughing, but we're all a little crazy, right? I mean, literally, we're all a little crazy. Some of us don't even know how we're going to feel tomorrow morning, right? Like some of us don't even know, like tomorrow morning, I'm not sure if I'm wake up pissed off, I don't know, kind of just apathetic, like whatever, fuck it. Or I'm going to wake up and like super jazzed, went to the conference, you know what I mean? Like, get it. And here's the worst part of all of this. In business, that is like living in Vegas and playing the slots. The high-low lifestyle is what leads to so much burnout, but also just the longevity of anybody's vision that cannot happen in 6 months. So to achieve non-ordinary states of states of consciousness without coming to Colorado, okay, it can be done very easily, but a couple things I want you to understand. 90% of your thoughts are subconscious. They just pop up. How do we know this? Anybody literally say, like, I would like to get angry right now. I would love to judge this guy so much at this exact moment. No, they just happen. We start judging, we stop listening, we tap into, like just these subconscious things that have been our patterns, and half of us don't even know what they are, and just lead to certain predominant emotions, and then that's our experience in life. Because people say, with the emotion creates what? Motion. So now all of a sudden I'm leading my business forward with my crazy self who doesn't even understand it. So how do we do that? One other acronym. It's called GROW. It stands for goals, reality, obstacles, and will. So you have the framework of EOS. You now have a framework that you can start looking at each and every day for growth, goals, reality, obstacles, and will. And so every one of you has a workbook. Sounds like we had a couple extra minutes today. Are you guys good to do some work with me instead of just listen? Cool. Grab your workbook, grab your phones, grab whatever it is. And you're going to answer 4 questions throughout the duration of ending my presentation. Who here has a vision? Could somebody share it? Stand up though and like really share your vision.
I can do it.
Yeah, go ahead.
So my vision, or you mean for the business, right?
Whatever you want.
Okay. My vision for the business is check. My vision for the business is I will be known as the real estate expert that knows every golf community within 30 miles of Austin, Texas, and everyone will use me as their golf community expert.
Love it. Pass it to, let's go 2 more people. Share your vision. Pass it to somebody.
You're close enough. Garrett, you can go.
My vision is scattered. I don't have one. Well, that's actually not true. So it would be, well, my vision is to be content, and I've got a few non-negotiables as it relates to personal life that have to do with that. And I haven't focused in years on like the vision board and actually was serious about it. And so, quite frankly, it makes sense where I'm at in my career is because it's like a big bowl of spaghetti. And this was one of the major investments that I made in myself and in the team that I had created over the past 8 years was to refocus everybody on the fact of, we are going to be the most generous real estate team in the state of Minnesota. And that came from the original vision of, hey, I'm the get it done dad. You need something done, we'll get it done. We'll make it happen. And that, again, has become a big bowl of spaghetti. And it was like, all right. So that's why I swiped the card in August. I was like, this is bullshit. Because you were laser focused 8 years ago, and you're not anymore. And when I got that email from you guys, like it was like, yep, okay, here we go. We can do this again. I'd had one weekend at the lake where my phone didn't ring from Thursday morning until Tuesday afternoon. And I finally got to work on building a shelf in my shed with my dad. And it was like, okay, I can do this again. I've been really burnt out. So that's where I'm at with vision.
Yeah. Let's give a round of applause. And that was a good mic drop. Sometimes it's a simple word swap, right? So we have simplify, delegate, elevate. So it's asking somebody what their vision is a difficult question to answer for a lot of people's brain system. Okay? Especially if there's somebody that worries. Especially if there's somebody that has anxiousness, fear, lack of, skill or courage. It's like, well, you're asking me to think about the future. So what I want you guys to do is, don't worry about what is the vision, but remember, without a vision, thy will perish. And I've seen that over the last 3 years in hundreds of real estate teams and individuals. And the reason being is because we get stuck on trying to solve the problem. What's the problem? Inventory. What's the problem? Rates. What's the problem? Leads. That's not what I'm asking. What I'm asking is, what do you want to create? And a lot of times when I ask people, what do you truly want to create? Guess what they start telling me? What they don't want. Their vision is literally creating the things they don't want, which goes back again to mind manifestation. If we're going to create anything, it has to be on what you truly want. So take 2 minutes and just answer that question. What do you truly want to create? 2 days or full day today, leave here with a clear understanding of what you truly want to create. For some of you, this might be 3 sentences. For some of you, it might be an entire page. It might be 3 pages in your phone, because that one question triggered, here is what I'm about to finally start creating. And then every day moving forward, I'm going to keep asking myself, what do I truly want to create? And that will answer, what is your vision? For some of us, we have a better ability to conceptualize vision. For others, though, we are all here as what? Entrepreneurs. Job creation. So take 2-3 minutes just to get it started. What do you truly want to create? Maybe you guys got some music. Get some music. So I don't know if we have that ability or whatever. Yeah, there's some good thinking music. It could be for your channel, it could be for business, it could be for life. They all will lead into each other.
Like 12 pages.
My man.
Did this already.
This is from StoryBrand.
No, from a friend of mine who's a brand expert. So we did a whole brand exam, so I have a whole vision, brand exam all around my channel, what I'm doing. And as it's...
You know, so often people, and we're going to talk about it in a moment, right? Remember, we had simplification, we had delegate, elevate, then we had process control. See, process control is important, but we can get lost in the what? The process, right? Like, you can try to start solving a process or a problem for so long that all of a sudden what you wanted to create is no longer even the path that you're on anymore. And with real estate or any industry that has a lot of change, that's why it's so critical and fundamental to always keep following, as long as you're an entrepreneur, this thought of job creation. What do I truly want to create? I'm still going to have to fix process control, which I'm going to talk about in a moment, but I just wanted to share, as we were having a conversation in the back, you know, it's not that it's right or wrong, it's your perspective, which was my goal today, which is just how can we maybe update or change our perspective to the way we're currently operating some of our systems.
I was telling him that at my brokerage, Ziegler Realty, we talk about EOS. I teach EOS, and but I had to gear it toward the realtors that weren't performing. So we make 90-day goals, which are called ROCs at EOS, and we talk about their issues and their vision and their processes, and I hold them accountable with their scorecards, which he's going to talk about. But it all starts with your why. Why are you doing it? And what is your overall vision to get to where you're going? And I think if you don't start out with, of course your vision can change over time, but you have to start. And just to put that all in a real tight bubble, I had my vision that I needed, because I'm getting older, to become some sort of rainmaker to other agents, to grow a business, to help them and the clients we serve, while I can grow it and step out. And voila, after prayer, I saw Levi on a show. So I'm able to come up with a plan with goals to reach the vision I want, and I will follow those processes that he's giving me. And he holds me, he and Archie and everyone holds me accountable. Archie holds me accountable. And so you really need to listen to what he's saying and really kind of soak it in. It's very existential when you first hear it, but if you follow it in your real estate business, it actually leads down the road to get to where you want to go.
Well said. Give a round of applause. So as long as you leave here with the simplification around vision of just always coming back to what do I want to create, you're right. Sometimes our vision evolves, but as long as you're living your vision, most likely you'll be happy. And that is ultimately what most everybody is in the pursuit of, but we know that that requires a certain amount of time and money to do the things we want to do with the people we love. So yes, the next part is scorecard. Now we're not going to spend a lot of time here because you guys are higher level. This is the accelerator group, okay? The scorecard though, the perspective I want you to take is the understanding of what you track and measure improves. Do you guys agree? almost anything. If you just track something, you will see an improvement. I'm not saying it's going to get better. You might show the whole world that, you know what I mean, it's worse. Look, the reality is, though, because you started tracking and measuring it, it's going to improve most likely your awareness of it. It's going to improve your consideration of it. Ultimately, you can then go to business, improve the results. See, this is what's so beautiful. If what you wanted to create was a real estate business that fundamentally attracted people through you being able to do and speak to the type of people you like and the things you love showing, opposed to having to directly respond to leads from a third party that owns those leads, well, then guess what? That could have led you to passive prospecting, right? See, if you keep following what you truly want to create, what will happen is through keeping track of what is important to you. So the essence of a scorecard is what's important to track and measure. This is not a coaching accountability conversation. This is creating what you want. You want to be healthier? What should you track and measure? You want to have a better relationship? What's important to be measuring? Like, don't you want to know these things? This is not about your coach's relationship. This is about your relationship with your desire to truly create what you want. Now, what's nice about it is what you track and measure and report back to somebody accelerates it. I have to imagine that's part of the accountability with Archie, right? Hey, I have to report back these things. I just can't what? Complain about them. Okay, or just talk about problems all the time. That is fundamentally the most important aspect of leadership, management, and accountability is people taking self-accountability to the meetings you have with them. If you're showing up to agent meetings, you're showing up to meetings with other people, and they are not coming with their scorecard to report what happened and an understanding themselves of the issues. Now then, you might be able to help them, unfortunately, with the challenge neurologically, physiologically, psychologically, those things, but they need to know the business challenge. Look, I'm just not making enough videos. Okay, help me understand why. What makes you say that? And then we start really figuring out the real problem, but then we can go back to what? What did you want to truly create? Help me understand, and this is where you'll start seeing what is your current reality. So for your next assignment, I want you to write that question down. What is my current reality? I just got this emotional music in the background. I was thinking all fluffy and lovey like Coach Justen was talking about what I want to truly create, right? I know. Here's the shitty part. I'm not saying be optimistic about your current situation. I'm also not saying be pessimistic. There is no right or wrong. This is the reality. Some of us put ourselves in a really freaking bad place. You spent the wrong money. You haven't been doing the right things with your time. You've been saying the wrong things to the wrong people. You haven't been out there in pursuit of service, value, and use. You've been hunting for deals. That is a tough reality, but it's good because guess what? State of consciousness of acceptance, the predominant emotion is forgiveness. Real quick, we can forgive. Why? Because I'm going to go right back to what I want to truly create. If I keep up front and center what I want to truly create in every coaching conversation, whether you work with somebody or not, you're coaching yourself. What am I truly trying to create? What do I truly want to create? What is my desired creation? What is my desired result? That will lead you down the path that maybe your vision's a little later, maybe it's a little sooner, who knows, but it'll keep you on the accelerated path. Now, the scorecard is what you're going to then take to people that care about you. Instead of saying, hey, coach, I want to solve all these problems, it's going to say, hey, let's look at the scorecard. What are the real issues? And if you want to benchmark, anything under 80% is an issue, and you should schedule a meeting to solve it. If it's important, you're tracking and measuring it, and it's not hitting 80% 3 weeks, you're almost a whole month, and our business runs a quarter mile at a time, right? Am I too old for Vin Diesel? We run a quarter at a time, right? Okay? Just really, like 1 month will catch up to us that unfortunately, like 3 weeks in, we got to solve the problem. We can't stop shooting videos. Like, you got to get out there. Okay, hey, we can't not do these things. Like, it's been 3 weeks. Like, meeting now, solve that issue. And we can't leave without a solution to it. Otherwise, I'm most likely going to do what? I'm going to end up spending time on all these other problems that then is creating what I didn't want. What do you truly want to create? What's the scorecard? And as you start looking at this, so if you want for your assignment post this conference, right, is what is important to track based on what you want to create. Process control. This is the part around obstacles. The question is, what actions will take you from where you are to where you want to be? And this is the predictability part. So we said simplification, delegate, elevate, predict, right? Can we all agree that one of the fundamental reasons why we have anxiety, fear, doubt, or any lack of willingness to do things is we can't predict our business? That is literally the most frustrating part for most people, or the other part is we actually can't predict, we're lying. I already know it's gonna be bad. And I've gotten so accustomed to just telling people I will do things, or I'm hoping that they're gonna happen, and the reality though is when I look at the reality of it happening, it is very far from happening. So remember, it's not about optimism. It's not about being stuck in fear and anxiety. It's about this neutrality. Just every single day, this neutrality, trusting you have the right vision, you have the right scorecard in place, you have the right processes that you're going to control, which are what are the actions will take you from your current reality to where you want to be. And here's the hard part, though. Right? This is why I don't coach a lot of people or businesses. It's fundamentally, I cannot handle this. And this is where my willingness turns into unwillingness because you know what to do, you're just not doing it. Now, what I will do for a little period of time is help you neurologically, physiologically, psychologically, because it might not be your fault. You're out of whack. And we need to fix that. It might be the substances, it might be the diet, it might be the lack of sleep, it might be the lack of movement, it might be the prescriptions. There might be a lot of things, but I am knowledgeable about those. So it's beneficial to then say, hey, you know what? Are you willing, though, to do the things that will help you learn? So neuroplasticity, just so you guys know, the whole scientific, like all this cool stuff that's coming out these days, it just means your brain's ability to learn. Okay, so like you don't have to use the scientific names. And as you start looking at this, there's a lot of things that people are trying to figure out. Anybody here dealing with dementia in their family? I have 2 of them. It is probably the worst disease I've ever had to experience or watch or see for people you love. Okay, neurogenesis is the making of new neurons. This is something that a lot of science is showing, hey, how can we do this? Okay, but the one for us 2 are the bottom 2, okay? It's neuroregeneration. This is the old neurons. Some of us used to be a little bit more courageous, right? Hell yeah. Some of us used to be a little less fearful, right? Some of us used to be a little less anxiousness. Some of us used to be a little bit more loving, right? Okay, some of us used to be a little bit more excited to go make some freaking calls, right? Yes. Like there was a day where I would have loved to take all your stale leads. I was on a call at lunch break with an entire team, and they were talking about stale leads. And I said, look, the reality is I'm pretty sure there's somebody we can delegate that to who is on an elevated state of consciousness that would love to call those because you don't want to. So are we going to call them and fix your mindset, or are you going to delegate to somebody else? It's simple, right? That's simplification. So as we start looking at synaptogenesis, so it's beautiful. This is the work you can do to reconnect. It's actually, or to connect for the first time, meaning, you know what? I work with a lot of CEOs, hardened hearts, okay? And they all want to do these spiritual work because they realize, like, whether it be their wives, whether it be their husbands, whether it be whatever, right? Like, I need a heart opener is what they call it, right? Chakras, all kinds of other things spiritually. Now they're getting the science of psychedelics behind it. What we need to do is figure out, there are a couple things I'm going to leave you with today. They're just the truth, okay? This goes back to, I can predict what will most likely happen to you in your ability to improve your state of consciousness, your desire, your willingness, your acceptance, and everything that goes from here to creating the result you want, knowing what I can predict, which is there's gonna be a lot of shit in the way. Okay? Whoever predicted interest rates got that fucking wrong, right? Like, it's almost May, and I thought they were supposed to be back down to 4%. I mean, that's what we were all hoping 9 months ago, right? Barry Abib and everybody else that we were hoping, like, oh, yeah, don't worry, dude, but by June, we'll be back to normal. And now everybody's saying what? 10%. That shit ain't happening, man. Okay, imagine this. I'm just going to imagine it's going to get worse. Why? Because I'm in a selflessness mindset instead of self-grasping, and I'll be ready for it because I'm working on what I truly want to create. I have the scorecard in place, right, to make sure I'm looking at what's important to that. Then I have the processes, the actions from my current reality to where I want to be, and I got to work on those. Not with optimism, not with pessimism, with just trust that those are the 3 to 5 things that will get me there. That might be what you need a coach for. Like, hey, honestly, like I see like 50. If you were going to say this, like what are the 3 to 5 things that would really get me there? But neurocatalytic is the catalyst, okay, to all this change. And the reason why some things had to change for me was after you consult high-level people for a long time and you love people, the most frustrating thing in the world is seeing somebody you love keep doing shit that hurts them, right? But then you realize only somebody would do that who hasn't made sense of like what they're doing. Intellectually, I know, but I keep choosing to do it. Man, well, we got to figure out what is that. And these are the catalysts to that. Increasing your brain function neurologically, looking at enhancing your learning, providing perspective, and expanding awareness. And so as you look at the last part of that GROW acronym, it's will. This is how will you sustain motivation and commitment through the process, because what I know is the vision you want to create through the process, so many things are going to happen. Good, bad, indifferent. I was there 2.5 years ago to watch Levi speak to 5,000 people. I've been with him through some things in the middle, and I cannot wait to be there with him and Travis as Travis just had a baby. Baby Lucas comes, and there's so much that's happened in professional environment from there to here. But the reality is, every time I read their vision, we're getting one step closer. We're getting one step closer to the things they always wanted to do, being around the people they always wanted to be, and my vision through them is coming true because all I ever want to do is spend time with people, hopefully adding value and use to them, and really creating impact in the things that are simplified that they can do to go change their life. And if you want to know what those 7 are, here they are. You want to change almost every aspect neurologically, physiologically, and psychologically. The first one is intentional breathing. Who here does breath work, intentional breath work? Raise your hand. Cool. This is definitely an accelerator group. Usually when I ask that question, there's no hands. Who here does meditation every morning? Cool. Who does mindfulness, journaling, gratitudes, affirmations? Who has their affirmation? Could say it right now. Go ahead. What's the affirmation? Let's hear it.
Did I say every morning?
Yeah.
I was like, I'm good enough, I'm smart enough, and daggone it, people like me.
Fuck yeah. Give him a round of applause. Okay. I changed my affirmations about 7 months ago. One of the components was I am mindful, I am present, I show up. When Levi made that phone call to me to go to CrossFit that next morning at 5:30, do you know the first thought that came into my head? Hell no. Hell no, I don't want to. But then, what do you truly want to create? What have you been saying every morning? Mindful, present. Dude, you're in town. You're here for another business owner. It's 45 minutes away. Show up. This is what's so amazing is some people either truly believe it's a brain system issue they have. It's a physiological issue you have. And the nice part about that is you can stop believing it's a problem you have. Your systems just need improvement personally just as much as they do business. Soothing touch, massage, holding your loved one more, cuddling with your children, mistakes that I've made, right? Of knowing, man, that child could have had a little bit more of me holding them. Why? Because you're so fucking busy with those 80 agents and the 1,000 transactions. But that was the child that needed just 15 minutes a day. We're not talking hours, we're just knowing that's why your relationship's a little different from emotional mood regulation between the two. It's very simple. Now, as you start looking at music and intentional listening, who here felt better after we frickin' started the way we did this morning? I did, right? Like you're just like, holy shit, singing out loud helps. I know. But do you know how many guys at church won't frickin' open their mouth? All right, Kevin was dancing. I came over to my man here and I was singing, trying to get him to go, right? It's just so easy for us to be like, versus getting into these things, these techniques that will improve your aspect of willingness, neutrality, and hopefully the desire to go do these things that most of us know how to do, but we've chosen not to. Nutrition and sleep. And so if we looked at just changing today, and hopefully my goal was helping you with a different perspective, a different understanding, to seeing how much control you have. That was the goal. I hope that you don't leave here going, oh my gosh, I have a lot to work on. No, simply put, you have a couple small things. Like my man in the back, right? He's got a 5-page document of his vision. And he says he's been working on that with this coach as they're reviewing it. Right now, everything's coming closer and closer and closer together to his vision becoming closer to a reality. It's beautiful. Now, the question with us, though, is can we update our understanding of these things to know that if I'm not doing those 7 techniques on a regular, that's probably why you have a little nerves on not wanting to go record video. It's probably why you have a couple nerves thinking too much about what somebody might say, which is future thought, compared to just being in the present and instead of doing. So for a lot of people that have burnout, when I hear people say like, dude, I'm just burnt out, it's because you're doing. You're doing so much busy work versus being. Being. I thought we all got into this, got our licenses because we didn't like being something else. And now what we're being are entrepreneurs, and entrepreneurs at the finest are the ones that take control of these systems that they can, and then they implement the almost exact same things from a simplicity perspective in their business, but there's not a lot of them, right? So instead of having uncertainty, doubt, and anxiety, we have certainty, confidence, and willingness. We have joy, love, neutrality, reason. And ultimately, those last three, we could talk about more at another time, but if you want to predict, you want to have systems, you want to have structure, all you have to do is take care of the ones that we talked about today. And over time, you'll be able to work with your coaches and the people that love you a lot to just figure out what's the system that works for you and what's the structure that's going to be best to what? Help me create the result that I want to have. So from me to you guys, I appreciate your time, appreciate your commitment to this entire group. And closing with it, it's nice to know my kind will be on my side.